So the consultation is split across 3 sections. The first is about moving away from the Common Agricultural Policy, because even though Brexit will happen on the 29th of March 2019, there is going to be time, an agricultural transition that Defra will put in place before we remove entirely from the Common Agricultural Policy. So that's the first section. The second section is around the future agricultural policy, and here Defra are talking about having a policy where public funds will be used to support public goods, and we'll explain a little bit more about what those public goods are later. The third section of the consultation is very much about the framework that will be required to enact this policy once we leave the Common Agricultural Policy. So for example, there will be an agriculture bill that will be laid in Parliament that will allow ministers to make future payments to farmers. And we've also the question of devolution, because as we know, agricultural policy is devolved to Scotland, England, Wales and Northern Ireland, and so this consultation is very much focused on what will happen to the future of English farming and English agricultural policy. So if we take the agricultural transition section, what it means is that the basic payment scheme that you'll be applying for at the moment for the BPS 2018 is business as usual. They've also confirmed that for BPS 2019, that's the one for next year and will be paid in December 2019, will continue as business as usual. Thereafter, Defra is proposing to start making changes, and what they're proposing is that in the first instance that they would introduce some kind of capping, some kind of reduction to the largest beneficiaries. Now they haven't defined who these beneficiaries would be, nor have they defined how large the cuts would be. However, the intention at the end of the transition period is very clear, and that is that the BPS would be phased out for all farmers. So in the short term, during this transition, they're talking about trialling some new environmental land management schemes, also possibly some trials for animal welfare schemes, and they'd also look to use the money for improving agricultural productivity. Now the important thing to remember is that the government has made a commitment that the total budget will remain the same until 2022, but there is no commitment that the budget will remain thereafter. So until 2022, we do expect the money, if it is taken through the phasing out of the BPS, to be recycled for those measures.
The Defra consultation paper outlines 5 public goods, and these are enhancing the environment, improving animal and plant health and animal welfare, supporting rural areas and upland areas and remote farming, investing in competitiveness and productivity of the sector, and public access to the countryside. There are also 2 other areas that aren't public goods. These are risk management and resilience of business, and fairness in the food supply chain. So the paper also indicates a few practical policy initiatives too for those public goods. So for the environment, there's proposals for an environmental land management scheme that will be similar to stewardship schemes of the past. There'll be investments for capital grants in sustainable production, and they'll also be looking at the regulations as well. For animal welfare, there wouldn't be necessarily any rises in the regulatory baseline, but there would be targeted investment to help farmers go further than that. For investment in competitiveness and productivity, there would be investments in skills and training and getting research outcomes to the farm. For the uplands and rural areas, they look at investment in broadband and also a clear vision for upland areas. And for public access, they look at maintaining public rights of way.
So we've organised nearly 40 member engagement meetings, which is going to provide a lot of the material that we will use in head office to respond to this consultation. Furthermore, we have the NFU Council taking place on the 23rd of April, where we will get a strategic direction from NFU Council. NFU Policy Board and office holders will ultimately sign off the NFU response.
So So in the command paper, there are lots of things that we see reflected from our domestic agricultural policy position. However, we believe that food production is vital to the future of farming as well, and we need profitable and sustainable farms going forward that can produce food competitively as well. People can log on to the NFU web pages where we have a dedicated Brexit part of the website and specifically for this consultation as well, or they can drop us an email at brexit@nfu.org.uk.